Hey, Jerry. So this is my race from last night at Bear Creek, and there was five of us. So this is 10 seconds to go, and you can see our start is on this gravel road, and that's Aaron Schneider on the left. And I get out of the five people, that's pretty much the perfect start that I could ask for.
Right, so you're immediately in his draft somewhat, and it's a night race, obviously, but
Yeah.
so that's a special effect. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you could see we were hitting 600 watts off the start there. My heart rate's climbing up. My max is 170 heart rate, and you'll see up here it hits 160 and really doesn't come down from that point. So I'm happy to be sitting in this spot. We're doing like 21 miles an hour. 300 watts. I'm thinking I'm just going to hang on as long as I can, which turns out to be not that long.
Right. And is this the exact same course as you ride just the normal race, the daytime race earlier in the season?
Yeah, just slightly different. And if you can see off in the distance, there's storm clouds.
Oh, yeah.
So there was lightning back there, and that's why we had such a low turnout, because I think everyone was expecting muddy conditions and rain. But yeah, you can see Aaron here starts to hit the throttle. Now we're in the woods. We're hitting all these rock gardens, and he's just flying.
Yeah.
I have to say he's on a hardtail too. We're all on full suspensions, and so he is just a master.
Yeah.
Yeah. He ends up winning the race in 1 hour and 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And second place was 3 minutes back from that.
Right.
So you can see I'm already at 160, right? So I'm getting close to my max heart rate. And now I'm just doing everything I can to try to keep him in sight. You can see his light up there.
Do you only have a headlight or also a tail light?
No tail light. I have a headlight on my bars, and then I have a light on my helmet.
Right.
So you can see we're going through here. You can, in the grade on the right, it's saying 5-6%. So basically, from the start, after we go around that pond, it's uphill. It's pretty much uphill. There's a little downhill up here, but you're basically going to climb all the way to the top of the ski area. So you can see like 380, 400 watts this whole time. And then right here, we start to turn and go back down. And what's interesting is when I uploaded my race file, I hit some of my best numbers on this course. So people tend to think like at night racing, like maybe you go a little slower.
Exactly, yeah.
It's kind of the opposite, because it's cooler temperatures and it's fewer people on the course. You usually can set faster times.
Right. Yeah, and you've done this race a couple of times.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're more experienced with riding in the dark, and I think how does that work? Do you need to adjust a little bit with the light, the darkness, the speed?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, this is the pro category, so the Cat 1s and the pros, they know all these courses. Like, there's no surprises, right? I know right here. Here's the big rock. You go over that. You make this left. Once we come to these lights, that's the start of the next real big climb. So you can see right now, the grade starts to go up, and it's going to hit 10, 15% up here. So even though you're in the dark, you know the course and you know what to expect. So right here, I'm just trying to, you can see 360 watts. I'm just trying to pick up as much time as I can to get, keep Aaron in sight. And at this point, I have two people behind me. I have Scott Gray and Jason Wallace. And I can kind of tell that they're like ready to come around me, but I'm setting a pretty decent pace. So I think they're just being patient and letting me,
Right.
do my stuff. Yeah. So now we're kind of coming up towards the top. Yeah. And now we start to really build some speed. Because this is a little flatter now. We're at 7%. So, yeah, this is all really technical, but we all know this course, so they're right on my tail the whole time.
You get the Blair Witch Project vibes.
You do.
Right.
But yeah, I'm also just doing everything I can to get oxygen in. I mean, I'm at 163 right here.
400
BPM.
watts, 400 watts constantly.
Yeah. And every little break, every little flat section, it's like a little reprieve. And it's like, then you can dig a little harder for the next one, for the next climb. I have to say the bike was perfect for this. I had no problems with my bike, and it's always nice just to not have to worry about that.
Right, because the course was dry conditions.
Mm-hmm. The tires were grippy. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear in the video, but you can just hear me shifting the whole time. So right up here, now I know that they kind of want to come by me. So this is a Jeep road. So I just hugged the right side just to allow them to come by. You can see my watts drop.
Right.
And sure enough, Scott comes by at this point. He announces it, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So I figure the three of us can go faster if we take turns and, kind of work together.
Yeah.
You can see the speed at 18 miles an hour. We get up to like 20. But yeah, you can see the heart rate really didn't dip below 160 this whole time. So up here, like he chooses the right side, and I favor the left. So I kind of, we do this a few times where we split. Like he goes one way, I go to another. But we stayed together basically right up until maybe 1 or 2 miles to go. So here's a new section. This used to be just a big, nasty rock garden, and they've flattened it out, which just makes it faster, which means you just don't let off the gas.
Right. But it's 10, 12%.
Yeah.
It's fairly steep. Yeah.
Right. And you used to have to pick your way through the rock garden, and now you just fly up it. Yeah, so this is called the mining road. And you can see when we make a turn up here, there's railroad ties in the middle of it. So you have to kind of meander through them. But this whole time, we're just really trying to catch air and just keep the speed up high. So here's the switchback. And you'll see like Scott kind of likes to stand, get back up to speed. And again, he takes the right, I take the left. And there's those railroad ties.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a headlight unit and a battery attached to your stem, right? Or your front,
so the
upper tube, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually made the mistake. I put the battery on top of my top tube instead of hanging it underneath.
Right.
So I thought it was going to be fine, and I strapped it down tight. But you'll see on one of the downhills, we get pretty rowdy, and it slipped off, and it was like dangling underneath. So
Oh,
on lap two, I had to like on the road section, I had to like cinch it back down. But after that, it was good. Yeah, I probably should have pre-rode it with the battery in that location. That's my bad.
yeah. And how bright is your light? It's pretty bright. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's I don't even know how many lumen. It's like, yeah, I have to go look. It's a night rider. And the battery lasts for like 3 hours or something like that. So didn't really have to worry about it running out, which
Right.
in previous years I've had ones that only lasted like an hour and a half. They were bright, but if you had any mishap or if the race went longer, if it was muddy, you had the risk of running out of battery.
Right. And it's LED, I assume.
Yeah, it's all LED.
Yeah.
And then the one on top is just like it's like an all-in-one battery, just a rechargeable one. So it's not as bright as the one on my handlebar, but it's nice for looking into corners because your bike doesn't. Yeah. So you can see up here, I took that little inside line. So I don't know if he hadn't pre-ridden the course, but there was a couple of little spaces where I was like, save a second if you go here.
Why take the long route?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you can see my heart rate's been climbing up. And this whole time, I mean, we're going right up to the top of the mountain. Yeah, so this is the last part that really kicks up. And on the last lap, right here, where that tree is right there, we had a mishap where we were trying to pass a rider. We were lapping, and Scott gets around, and I call out on the right, but then they pinched me off into the corner. So my handlebar hits that tree. I fall down. Jason, that's behind me, kind of gets held up too. We have to run that section, and Jason gets around me and makes it up to Scott, and then passes him and gets second. So Scott gets third, and I get fourth.
Right, and the people that you were overtaking, they were lower cats that were sent off later. Yeah,
exactly, and it was just because of the timing that they were finishing their lap as we were on our last lap. So here is kind of the top of the single track, and now we're coming out onto a Jeep road. And there's a couple of these Jeep roads in the course. You can see Scott takes a drink of water, but then now we got to start laying down the power because all of these little Jeep roads is where you can make up time.
Yeah.
So we're back up to 300 watts, and he's out of the saddle. So at this point, you just go as fast as you can because there's no limiter on these Jeep roads. And there's this little technical piece in here. This is all the same course as the one that we did 2 months earlier during the day.
Right.
So even though it's a rock garden, everyone kind of knows the lines to go through. And you can see right here, like now we're getting up to 19 miles an hour, 20. So another of those Jeep roads where we just try to make up time. And you can see how close I am behind him. I mean, he's spitting up all that dirt and stuff. But you actually do get a draft when you're at the speed.
So absolutely.
It is beneficial. Yeah. But yeah, you can see we were doing like 400 or 500 watts up that little climb. And I know, like we mentioned that in the Grenoble race, I was talking about like power and heart rate on different sections, but during the race, you can't really look at it. The only thing I really look at is time, because I just kind of want to know like
Right.
especially for endurance racing. Like, what time am I in the ride? Am I at the 2 hour mark? Things like that. And for this, I just kind of want to know like what kind of lap times I'm doing, but I can't. There's no way to look at power or speed or anything else really. You just kind of have a sense like, okay, I know we're doing some pretty high watts here.
Yeah, it's based on feeling, most feeling and
Mhm.
experience, right? How am I feeling? And from experience, kind of, how you felt before, maybe even subconsciously. So you
Yeah.
know that okay, I might be overcooking it, or I've gone a little bit more because of the section that's coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now we're at the top. So now we start to go downhill, and my heart rate really starts to come down. So we're still keeping our speed on these downhills, but there is definitely a speed limit. So
Yeah.
we are able to recover here.
Did you bring one bottle since
Yeah.
it's fairly
Yeah.
short? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I only drank maybe half of it. So yeah, you don't need to eat anything, barely drinking,
Yeah, you need to focus. That's for sure.
Yep. So here's another grass field, and you can watch the watts on this. You can see like he's trying to really, close the gap here. So now we're like 500 watts just going up this thing. It's not that steep, but it's just a grass field, so there's no reason to like recover on it, right?
And is it just the
No,
two
it's-
of you, or do you have somebody
Yeah, there's a third.
behind you? Yeah.
Yeah, so Jason Wallace is behind us.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 18 years old, I believe. So he had a phenomenal race. He ends up passing Scott, like I said, on the last lap, and he takes second, which is
Right.
a fantastic result. So here's a little downhill that gets a little dicey in here. There's these jumps which are tempting, but you don't want to jump them. So no, it's too risky, especially at night. These ones are real big right here. Whoa. And this one can really throw you. And actually on the last lap, I saw some kid right there in that corner that had an EMT around him. So he must have jumped it and missed the landing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always kind of, you have to keep the risk to reward ratio in mind, right? It would be fun, but is it going to make me faster? Is it going to get better results?
Exactly. It's even if you look at BMX racing, they tend to keep their wheels on the ground, right?
Yeah,
no
exactly.
jumping.
Yeah, so this is one of the last real climbs at the top here. It's kind of a new section that they threw in. But again, Scott, like out of the saddle, 400 watts. We're just trying to keep the momentum going.
And the big lights that you see, those the same lights, because it's a ski area, right? Bear Creek. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, the big lights are down at the bottom. They turned them on because they had some other activities. It was actually a wedding that night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Crash the wedding and get some dessert.
There you go. So you can see, like, even on these technical downhills, we really stay pretty close together. Like, no one's really getting any separation. So now here's the big downhill that we're coming back down to the ski area. And you'll see the speed start to pick up, 18 miles an hour. Now, during the day, I think we hit 23, 24 miles an hour on this. But the conditions were a little loose.
Yeah.
Everyone was expecting mud, and it ended up being really dry. So, but yeah, during the day you can just straight shoot this whole thing. Yeah, look at my heart rate. It's down to like 149. So at the bottom, we start attacking again.
It's always so tempting if somebody is going downhill just before you to follow his lines or her lines. In this case, his lines. Because I saw you he kind of missed the turn a little bit, and I hear you braking too.
Yeah.
It's so hard not to do that. It's at least that's my experience. Is like, okay.
Yeah. This little berm section, and then we're basically now we're at the bottom, back at the base of the ski area. So all that climbing, and then you just basically take a straight shot right back down. Another gravel road, so we start ratcheting it back up again.
Yeah, your heart rate is down to 145.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm feeling good, and I kind of start getting a little punchy here. Yeah, it's interesting. Scott has a dropper on his bike, but I don't think he used it the whole time.
I was about to ask, yeah.
Yeah. I'm still in that camp. I haven't moved over to a dropper yet. Eventually, it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, the person that won was riding a hardtail, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no dropper. So we come up here and we cross this little stream, and this is where the photographer is at. So same photographer that was at the beginning. So you can see right here.
All the flashes, yeah.
Yeah. It's a great spot. Mike Anderson, he does a great job.
Yeah.
So he's got a little gap, but I'm not too worried about it because I know the section pretty well. Your tires are slick from going through that little crossing, but you can make up plenty of time here. So yeah, my heart rate's still low. And we start, 3, 4, 500 watts here. So it's all these little recoveries. It just means you can dig harder once it goes back uphill.
Right.
So we pretty much kept this pace for the whole 3 laps. So it would have been interesting had I not crashed and we'd stayed together. Like, it would have been neat to see like a 3-up sprint. Like, what would have happened?
Right. Yeah. So that was about halfway through the 3rd lap when you crashed, right?
Yeah, it was pretty much like at the top of the technical climbing.
Right.
There was some Jeep road climbing. But yeah, no real place to make up a lot of time. I tried to send it on the downhill on the last lap, but it didn't really gain me anything.
Right.
So here's the end of the technical. Now, I think it's a little further. We're almost at the end. Here we go. So now we're back on the Jeep trail, and we're almost at the start finish. So you'll see we go pretty hard over this, and then we kind of agree, like, okay, no one's dropping anyone. So we kind of like, you can see we pull the pace back a little bit. Like, okay, this is going to be a long race.
Right.
Yeah, and we start seeing there's people on the course. So you can hear me yell out, rider's back. Because these guys are just kind of standing there.
Oh.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it.
Yeah, very, very, very cool race. And does this count towards the the mass series, or it is more like a fun race?
Nope, it's part of the Mass series.
Right.
So yeah, so it'll be some good points.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of folks missed out on some points here because they didn't show up. So
Yeah, yeah, would have been an easy top five.
right.